This problem is sweeping the nation, and it's already affecting millions upon millions of Americans. Now, what's really worrying is that some of them have been going through it for more than 12 months, which kind of lines up with the mountain of problems that we've been having. I mean, just the price of goods is a challenge, right? I've seen what you guys comment. You say that the money that you had before doesn't necessarily buy the same amount. Whether it be Walmart, Target, Kroger's, it's all the same. The prices just keep going up. Not to mention that we should expect prices to go even higher as the Red Sea continues to be hounded by Iranian-backed Houthis. I mean, it's not like we don't already have problems with China and Russia, right? But what is this huge predicament that's affecting so many of us?
A new survey
you go.
finds nearly half of all credit card holders in the U.S. are carrying a debt. According to Bankrate, 56 million people have been in debt for at least a year. The firm found that the number of Americans holding a balance on their cards from 1 month to the next has gone up a full 10 percentage points since 2021. So CBS Money Watch reporter Megan Sirlo is here to talk about this. So not too long ago, Vlad was mentioning earlier, we were talking about how everyone's got a surplus, they got all this money from the government because of the pandemic. They clean off their credit card debt, and then really quickly that turned around.
Right.
And suddenly we were in debt again. And now we're in debt so much that we got to talk about it. So what's driving the increase in credit card debt?
Consumers no longer have that padding, those reserves they built up during the pandemic. And simply put, people are making more purchases with their credit cards. It's not reckless spending, though. These aren't discretionary purchases that are contributing to debt. It's spending on emergency expenses like medical bills, car repairs, and the second most common driver of debt is spending on everyday necessities, groceries, childcare expenses, things like that.
So in essence, and this is something we talk about a lot, people are only paying, they're not paying down their balances, they're just paying the interest, which lines the pockets of the credit card companies or the banks, making them wealthier and richer while Americans either just keep their head above the water or in some cases sink if you can't make those payments.
Right. So it's problematic at the household level, especially now because average annual percentage rates on credit cards are so high. So it's a really costly kind of debt to carry, which is why experts emphasize how important it is to prioritize paying off credit card debt first before other kinds of debt, just because it's a really hard cycle to break.
Now you heard that. It's not reckless spending, folks. It's necessities. People are buying necessities and they're in debt for more than a year because the interest rate just keeps piling on more to their already existing debt, which funnily enough led the Google algorithm to show me this. So here's the best low interest rate credit cards to start off this new year, 2024. And no, I'm not going to go through all these lists of credit cards with you. All I need to show is that the lowest interest rate that you're going to see here is hovering right around 10%. Now, I'm pretty sure it sounds amazing compared to the almost 30% now that you're going to get pretty much everywhere else, but it's insane that we're now at a point that 10% is now considered low interest. Now, you guys should also know that the expectation was for credit card debt to grow by a modest $9 billion, right? Nothing much, right? Only an extra $9 billion. Well, as it turns out, the holiday spending for the last year pushed consumer credit card debt to $23.75 billion.
More than half of Americans with an income of $100,000 a year or higher say they're living paycheck to paycheck. This may be the result of a sneaky behavioral phenomenon called lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep is the common pattern of making a little more money and starting to spend a little bit more money. It happens almost automatically.
I think people hold these benchmarks in their mind. If I reach this position or I get this promotion or I make it to this age, then I can live this life, or then I deserve to have these things. And then they kind of go a little crazy or go a little wild on it. And then it becomes like a trade-off. Like they only can enjoy their present happiness and they're not able to save or plan for the future.
There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. The mental, emotional reason why we want to acquire more is generally rooted in this need for like your perceived value. Like we live in a world where like the nicer car you drive, the higher your perceived value is.
Now, out of these millions of Americans, how many do you think will actually be able to pay off their debt in 2024? I'll admit, I don't have a crystal ball or anything like that, but I'm not very excited to see the numbers once we round out this year, which makes people wonder. I thought that 2024 was going to be the start of good things for the American people. Well, I guess that depends on how you face these previous years. However, it's kind of hard to judge just how people lived, given that that not many of us had a choice but to kind of deal with these higher prices. And I know that this put a huge strain on people that are on fixed income, folks on Social Security, SSI, SSDI. These guys really had it rough. And this is exactly why some experts say that inflation, while it's actually going down, it doesn't mean that the damage hasn't already been done. But that's okay, right? We managed to avoid a recession in 2023, didn't we? You know what? Do any of you believe that we actually did avoid a recession last year? Some say that we were successful, not in avoiding a recession, but changing its meaning. Ouch. Anyway, if things are getting better, then what's happening to office spaces here in our country? Oh, that's right. More of them are now empty. In fact, our offices are now emptier than at any other point in time in the last 4 freaking decades. That's 40 years, folks. 19.6% of office space in major US cities was not leased in the fourth quarter. And just for reference, the previous record was at 19.3% in 1986 and 1991. Now, you also have to consider the fact that remote work wasn't available back then, which means this news is so much worse. But despite all of this, you're still going to hear the optimism. You're going to hear talk about a soft landing, of interest rates being cut. But at the end of the day, it's up to you if you believe that. Now, this brings me to a very painful truth, and that is a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs in 2024. We're likely going to be seeing layoffs that will hurt thousands, if not millions of households.
The latest, Google cutting hundreds of jobs in its engineering, product, and hardware divisions. Deirdre Bosa has that story in today's Tech Check. Good morning.
Hey, Carl, good morning. So, yes, the layoffs keep coming, but the narrative around them is changing. Cuts over the last few years, they have been about rebalancing workforces after pandemic overhiring. But the new wave may be more about directing or allocating resources toward a new generative AI computing shift. And it could also be the beginnings of a massive labor shift enabled by AI itself. Look at where the latest cuts happened. At Amazon, it was Prime Video and MGM Studios. At Google, it's the hardware division that makes Pixel smartphones and Fitbit watches, as well as in its core engineering unit and the team working on its AI assistant.
Look at this. 38% of US companies anticipate that they will be letting go people this year. 38%, folks. So this is a staggering number. This is very close to 50% of the companies. And speaking of staggering numbers, more than half, or 52% of companies, are expected to do hiring freezes. Now, I would love to say that this is the end, but no. 4 out of 10 companies here at home will have layoffs and replace those people with AI, and 3 out of 10 of them are actually going to be reducing holiday bonuses or even take them out altogether. Things are changing right before our very eyes, guys. And it's not just small mom and pop shops. We're talking about the likes of Nike, Hasbro, Amazon, Spotify, all these big names. But you gotta think, if these guys are cutting people off and, cutting back on bonuses, then what's happening with the smaller players? How are they adjusting to the times? And I told you guys about all of this before it even happened, because I wanted you guys to prepare. I wanted you guys to be ready. Hopefully you guys are still here and you're still thriving, but for those who are just kind of hearing this message today, I'm telling you right now, prepare for bad times. Keep your finances in check, because 2024 is going to be a bumpy ride. But what do you guys think? Are things actually getting better, or are these numbers actually making sense given the situation that we're in? I can't wait to hear from you guys. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys for your time. Keep safe, and I'll see you on the next one.